Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the launch of Volume 32-1. This is a double issue, so it's our open issue and an environmental issue tonight. We have a really great lineup, no particular order in terms of which issue they come from, but I really hope you enjoy all the hard work that every reader has put into their reading. When we decided to do an environmental issue, we knew it would be something special. We really wanted to capture something that spoke to the environmental relationship from various perspectives. The pull of the wild and less traveled, the pain of the destruction, the reconciliation of our own responsibilities, the power of nature has to reestablish itself, and the mysterious and strange ecosystems that exist out there like bogs that no one really thinks about. Those are just some examples of the really great poems and prose pieces that we have put together for your enjoyment. I hope you appreciate all their work as much as I have, and I hope you enjoy the readings tonight. Have a wonderful evening.
Hi, I'm Lori.
And I'm Jim.
And we're
the Prairie Soul Review.
And thanks for having us in your homes today. We have a couple of songs for you, and the first one is called Closing Time at the End of the World.
Enjoy. The open signs flickering off, the last bottle has been tossed, all the hearts are broken, half the keys are lost, and all these lonely people with their stories just like mine, do they try to do best they could, ended up at closing time. Well, the zombies, they're at the windows, that media is pulling down fast. I was hoping to be home by 2 a.m. Now it's 1:15. And is this what happened to the dinosaurs way back then, along the line? Oh, they're minding their own business, got caught by closing time. Well, the rioters got drowned in a tsunami, so I guess that's something good. But the murder hornets are coming on a beeline for us, like I guess we knew they would. And is this what happened to the dinosaurs way back then, along the line? Well, they're minding their own business, got caught by closing time. The open signs flickering off, the last bottle has been tossed, all my hopes are broken, half my teeth are lost, and I'm wondering what you're doing. Is your situation just like mine? Are you sitting back and watching the planet end, now that we're at closing time? Yeah, I'm wondering what you're doing. Is your situation much like mine? Are you sitting back and watching the planet end, now that we're at closing time?
Hi, I'm Mary Vluswick. I want to say thank you to FreeFall and the entire editorial team for selecting my poem. It's an honor to read tonight. It's an honor to be in this issue with all of the other amazing, awesome, creative artists. Thank you. My poem, A Delicate Impression. A skeleton in my flower garden, heaped beneath last summer's pale yellow irises while I slept. A tiny creature, wings spread wide, turned its head toward a bright green future, already turned to dust. A delicate impression tattoos the back of seeing. As my head turns, birds disappear from the sky. Acorns and flowers, pine cones and pebbles, a little warbler in a mystical shape, rustles underneath my fingernails, an unanswered question hollow bones cannot explain away. Thank you.
Snow White and we keep hankering for more. We craved the cowries and bibelots of status, the objects that solaced and satined our days, chasing stray flags of gadget and fashion. We're convinced of the common good of acquisition, the way it must accrue to the worth of the world. We took our measure by the finesse of our consumption, succumbed to the insidious infestation of our eyes, cultivated proclivities the planet could not bear, cracked the bones of our home to squeeze out more pleasure, our sight constricted by what we still coveted. Adjacent to the millions who hungered for grain, we constructed our mountains and monuments of waste. We stood indicted by the avarice of our lives, by these charms that dwelt so close to our hearts, charms that we would not barter for a future. Snow White has an eye for, desires the pretty, deserves more than the penniless dwarves can provide. Their injunction for her preservation is clear. She must not ever admit a peddler. But here, in a hue that unlocks her cache of dopamine, are the exquisite, lovely laces for her bodice, arrayed in the royal peddler's hand. Snow White cannot resist. They're a treat, an indulgence, a benediction on her day. The queen, assisting her, tightens the strings of the girl's suffocation. Snow White is lying breathless on the floor when the little men come home. They loosen the laces, unstrangle all her organs. She regains her breath, tells him that she simply could not say no. The orders are repeated to her, slowly. The queen returns in a new peddler's outfit, tempts Snow White with the glamour of a comb, its exclusive elegance adorning her hair, rendering her royal, stellar, a figure exalted to someone far exceeding herself. Snow White assents, her heart a flurry, a whirligig, a craving for makeover. The queen strokes her tresses, stabs the comb to her scalp, poison sharp in its every time. Again, Snow White collapses to the floor, lies as a splendidly elegant corpse, her vanity the target any archer can strike. The dwarves unfork the comb, tell her again. But their warnings can't annul the desires of her eyes. She is starkly immune to admonition, to threat, and all that dull talk of consequence. The peddler returns. Here again is the apple, fresh in its marriage of goodness and harm. The queen touts the fruit's incontestable merits, its perfection, its sweetness, attests that she never passes a day without taking one. The queen eats, Snow White eats, Snow White falls. What she is glutted with lodges in her throat, holds her to the floor and the coffin of coma. She, like fruit, is left to rot. The squirrel-like dwarves circle round her perplexed. Birds chitter about her mute, hungry beauty. She lies as a testament to the innocence of greed, the wondrously sympathetic desire for goods. the ingenuous candor of just wanting more.
The beam from her flashlight bounces and shimmies over the field stubble. She swings it around to the left and then to the right every few steps, but the eyes she saw before must have retreated to the trees. The screeching, squealing noise seems to have stopped. She hopes that if it was a rabbit, the rabbit is now dead. She arrives at the wall of trees. Her flashlight bounces off the silver birch, creating shadows that move beyond. His snares are just a couple of meters in, hers a bit further. She finds their footprints from the afternoon, but they're obscured by myriad other prints: elk, deer, and yes, rabbit. She follows the boot prints into the forest and finds his snares easily enough. They're empty, but the breakaway anchor wires are dangling, the supporting sticks knocked over. Good, she thinks, and places the flashlight between her teeth. She kneels down to the noose, pulling it small and bending it so that no head or foot can enter. She stands and moves to the second snare, does the same. She swings the flashlight around to see if maybe she can spot any additional snares he set without her knowing. A reflection flashes in the underbrush a few feet away, but by the time she adjusts the beam, it's gone. She moves toward where she thinks it was, eyes wide for any sign of movement. She squats in front of a tangle of willow and directs the flashlight into the bramble. Nothing. Also, no boot prints here. She retraces her steps to his snares, scans the snow for his prints, but they only go toward the warren, where she has set her own snares, and then back on themselves. She walks in his tracks, stopping with each step to scan the snow around them, but there's no sign of him stopping, kneeling to set more snares. Maybe she's being too hard on him. Too judgmental. Why does she always assume he's lying? She reaches the warren. Here there are more fresh tracks, but only rabbit. Rabbits everywhere. Rabbits crisscrossing over his and her boot prints. Why have they been so busy, especially with the freshness of human scent contaminating the area? She finds her first snare empty and, surprisingly, there are no fresh tracks anywhere near it. She kneels and clumsily unwinds the anchor from the sapling, pulls the noose through and crumples the wire deep into her pocket. As she moves toward her second snare, she catches something in the beam of her flashlight again, only this time it isn't eyes, but fur. There is fur up ahead, in the snow, unmoving, a foot, a small, elongated, white-furred foot. She freezes, her stomach a tight knot, her breathing shallow, her heartbeat rapid. Get it together. You are responsible for this. Now go deal with it. The rabbit is dead, its head at a strange angle. Maybe it broke its own neck. She hopes so, but the imprints in the snow around it suggest not. It struggled. She reaches down and touches its side with her cold hand. Still warm. Still very warm. A small movement under her fingers. Shit! She jerks her hand back. The rabbit moves again, this time twitching its hind legs. She sees, then, that one of its front feet is caught in the noose, which has cinched foot and neck together, tightly but not tight enough to kill. Worse than dead. Almost dead. Oh, fuck. Quickly she jams the flashlight between her teeth, kneels and begins unwinding the anchor wire. I'm sorry. She tries to keep the tears now welling up from obscuring her vision. Her fingers are numb, but she fumbles with the wire. She lets out a groan, a whine, blinks to clear her eyes. The rabbit twitches again, stronger this time. Just as she manages to free the anchor wire, the rabbit lets out a scream. The flashlight falls from her teeth into the snow and goes out. There is a sound all around her now, movement. She reaches for the flashlight, gropes in the snow but can't find it. She touches soft fur, something sharp, falls back onto her elbows. Movement, the sound of small feet on snow, branches being quickly pushed aside. Then, blackness, silence, stillness.
Hi everyone, my name's Angela Waldie, and I'm honored to be included in this latest issue of FreeFall. Congratulations to everyone at the magazine and all of the other writers as well. Today I'm going to be reading a poem called Visible Ghosts, which was originally inspired by a headline I found on a US Government Department of the Interior website. So I can't take credit for the line, "Can camouflage keep up with climate change?" Like many of you, I'm enjoying the warm weather we've had this spring, but unfortunately for animals that rely on extended cold and snow and seasons as they used to be, this can be a challenge to their survival in some cases. So this is what I'm reading about today. Visible Ghosts. A lynx stalks a snowshoe hare, stark white silhouette against the mud of a too-soon spring. The air warming, the light not yet long enough to trigger the molt that might have saved it. Can camouflage keep up with climate change? Arctic fox, collared lemming, white-tailed jackrabbit, least weasel, long-tailed weasel, rock ptarmigan, willow ptarmigan, stoat. Shapeshifters, silent echoes of April snowfalls, once adept in the art of vanishing, as though the bearers of Tolkien's ring. Threaten now for knowing how to brave the coldest hours, not migrate, not hibernate, but hide, still against the snow. Now they glow, like winter's lost shadow, trapped within a mottled spring, their cells out of sync, their beauty banished, to the file for archaic wisdom, how to be visibly silent, how to embody snow. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maryam Gowralli. Today I am going to be reading my poem, Spill into the Elbow River. When an eagle pierces the head of a rabbit, its flaccid eye hanging sheer and alone, the world teaches about dismemberment. Yes, I know peripheral vision and impartiality are the way of things. But when I hear the chatters of a friendly stream, I'd do anything to spill myself into the elbow river, the way affection and blood fills up a heart. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Megan Callahan, and this is an excerpt from my short story, Cadaver Dog. Ellie strides along the bank, sweat beading on her chest. Chance marches at her side, not tugging the leash, but excited, alert. He scouts, wet nose parting the scruffy grass, sometimes trailing to the edge and peering down to the water. It's a steep 3-foot drop. Chance sniffs the air while Ellie looks for a pop of color between the sunken branches and rocks. The current is sluggish, but the boy is only 2, small and light, and Ellie suspects his body has traveled far. Distant barking and voices travel down from the opposite shore. Ellie asks to be left alone. She loathes searching in teams, and so does Chance. All those clomping feet and roaming police dogs break his focus. Il travaille mieux seul, Ellie told the officer in charge. He had ape-like arms, silver hair cropped short. When she arrived, he gripped her hand inside the perimeter of sagging caution tape. A handful of cops idled below the footbridge, where an inflatable motorboat was anchored. 2 others were already on the water, trawling the murky canal. Pas de pluie aujourd'hui, the officer prophesied sourly, looking at the sky. Non, she agreed. It had been the driest August in decades. J'attends un déluge. He lit a cigarette, plucked from a crumpled pack of Du Mauriers, his fingers surprisingly nimble. A black duffel bag waited at his feet. Son nom? He gestured with his hand, trailing smoke. Chance sniffed the air, but otherwise remained impassive. Chance? Ah, the officer frowned, unimpressed. Ellie offered a bland smile. He struck her as a typical dog person, someone who enjoyed the drooling, brutish affection of a bulldog or pit bull. What people didn't understand was that Chance wasn't her pet. He was her tool. She'd honed him for a specific purpose. His name was silly and sentimental, chosen by her well-meaning mother. Ellie would have simply called him Dog. Les parents? Ellie asked. The officer shrugged. He cast the smoking butt of his cigarette into the yellow grass. Ils sont réalistes, he said. Ellie nodded, relieved. The toddler has been missing for 3 days. Alex Singh, curly dark hair, a scar on his chin. Last seen tossing bread to the ducks. His parents heard a splash, and when they turned, he was gone. Un aventurier, mon Alex, the father sobbed on the news. Peur de rien. Ellie had only spoken to the mother once on the phone. She'd talked in bursts, like she couldn't get enough air. Ellie scanned the surface of the water and unraveled the scene. How the boy must have lost his footing and stumbled over the edge. Drowned, she was certain. The officer kneeled and unzipped the duffel bag. The clothes were soft and doll-like. Slip-on yellow sneakers, a pair of striped socks, a pink flamingo t-shirt with a stain on the front. Ellie couldn't bring herself to touch them. They still had that sweet milk baby smell. Chance burrowed his nose in the folds, nostrils flaring. Now he lopes downstream, nose in the wind. Ellie looks out at the silver threads of the river, gauging the wind and the speed of the current. She's grateful to know the boy is dead. Hope, she's discovered, is something she can't bear. A body is simple and tangible. It has a smell that comes and lingers long after the coroner zippers the bag. Sometimes, after scent training with Chance, it sticks to her, no matter how hard she scrubs. A cloying phantom smell only she can detect. More than anything, she knows, a body has a place. It exists in the world. A body can be buried. You can take all that heart-splitting grief, all that pain, and plant it like a seed. Wait for something to grow. Thank you so much for listening, and you can read the whole story in this issue of FreeFall.
Hi, this is novelist and poet Mark Sampson, and I am here to read my poem, The Mosquito's Aphrodisiac, which will be appearing in the upcoming issue of FreeFall Magazine. The Mosquito's Aphrodisiac, after Timothy C. Weingard and John Donne. Oh, floating temptress, seductress at dusk, it's like you flitted into existence just to bore a new glory hole through the surface of my skin. You are God's only invention to find my stinking feet sexy. Go on, land undetected, delicate as a spore, upon that knob of ankle, right at my summer sandal's edge. Oh, succubus, what happens next is just between us. Your probing proboscis, those serrated blades, your backside in the air, and the gush of your saliva. The grass has never been this wet. I can't hold it in. 10 seconds flat, and my blood ejaculates up into you. The bump you leave behind aches more than it itches, unsatisfied. The message in your wake is clear. Baby, you're my type. Promiscuous sot, you say that to all the vessels on this block. Oh, mother of wiggling eggs in a puddle, they're my offspring as much as yours. I've heard the buzz, they're everywhere. This 400-meter radius will hold their descendants for centuries to come. A family tree, kept, added to, maintained, feverish as malaria. Thanks very much.
No one can eat so many apples. No one can eat so many apples or remember so much ice. J.H. Prynne. In the perfect bounty of this March morning, sun outlining the edges of spring over a river staticky with fishes of light, I count her loss. My lap is loaded with apples, yes, in bed. The duvet weighted with dozens of taut-skinned fruits, some green, some red, some gold. I have been eating since dawn, and there is no reason to think I will stop. Juice trails its passage down my cheeks and chin. Pips constellate the pillows, but I eat on. And for each apple I take between my teeth to bite, I remember ice. Ice of the lilies, ice of the last look, ice of the impossible word, ice of guilt, ice of beauty that cannot return. So you are wrong, lost poet. You thought no one could live on after the mind's intense Arctic or following the tree's endless harvest. But here I am, proof. My memory's endless caverns still open, my mouth continuing to close on yet another apple, sticky, delicious, and now long past dawn.
I'm Amy Kenny. This is Birds, or part of it, the beginning of it. I'll begin at the beginning because that makes the most sense. You sort of think the first time you visit someone in jail that they'll make a group announcement about how it works. Maybe even give you a handbook like they do at the pharmacy when you start a new drug. So you're in love with a jailbird, revised edition. They don't. They didn't even tell me when I called to ask about visiting hours that you should line up an hour early if you want to get in because there's capacity like it's some sort of club. The first time I went to see Evan, I got there right at 6 p.m. and watched all the women ahead of me disappear inside the burnt orange brick building with its dark windows shining down like blackened eyes. The guard closed the door and I stood there, mouth open, hands empty, arms spread like I was bragging about the size of a fish. I wouldn't have gotten in at all if it hadn't been for Linda giving up her spot. She recognized me as new by way of not recognizing me and made the guard open the door. I remember what it's like to be new, she said. I found out later how long it had been since Linda was new. Sometimes kids are great at dancing and they grow up to be dancers. That would be Linda if visiting jail was like dancing. She started coming as a girl, not much older than my daughter Delaney, to visit her dad, then her husband, now her son. She's so good at it, it feels like a higher calling or a thing decreed. And lo, the Lord said unto Linda, you shall be accepted as a savior among Gen Pop. She visits 3 times weekly, standing in line, sharing her Ziploc bag of Chex Mix with Delaney and with my son Keaton when he comes. The trade-off for the snack is that you have to shake your head along with her for mullet when she gives you that sad smile and tells you how her son's arrest was a misunderstanding. That the cops in this city, they have it in for him. It's a pretty common refrain, and no matter who's saying it, but especially when Linda's saying it, no matter what you read in the paper or saw on TV, you nod and shake your head too, even if you know that it's not that he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, but that he was just plain wrong. Linda has such solid faith in everything her son says, whether it's his side of the story or the shifty release dates that keep getting pushed back because he got into another fight. She turns each new date into a sort of talisman, treats it like a mile marker on the way to someplace where she has a family again. I stopped listening to release dates. After the first time Evan told Delaney he'd be out in 2 weeks. I wrote it on the calendar and then listened to her sing song, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, all over the apartment for, you guessed it, 2 weeks and still no Evan. Lucky thing that for Delaney, at 3 years old, 2 weeks has the same meaning as 2 years. When you're little, time takes forever. Years only gather speed once you know your way through them. Same as it is when you're walking in a new city using street signs like the rungs of a ladder to haul yourself around until one day you realize you've been doing it automatically, untethered by signs or timelines. So I don't write his dates down on my calendar anymore. It's white and open except for my shifts at the retirement home. Blank spaces like bingo squares or tundra or the paved concrete path that leads from my apartment to the prison, which I'm walking alone today because the kids are with my sister who's finally started talking to me again. I turn off the sidewalk and up the drive to the prison doors.
Hello, my name is Banu Zan, and I have a poem for you. The goblet of Jamshid was the cradle of wine. This is the gate to heaven. Close it in my face. I wish to stay with my people in flames of life. Thus said Jamshid, the myth long gone. Solomon of centuries, Noah of never-ending floods. Sun god seer a world-revealing cup, a dervish in mystical lines, asking bewildered beggars for alms. His heart a sandstorm of sorrow, old mage's wine cellar in ihram. The goblet of Jamshid was a galaxy of stars. Hold on to your heart at Nowruz. The beloved left no trace but you. Fear no sin that benefits the other. Sprinkle wine on earth before you drink. A fortress on the mountain, sanctuary of the living. Life reigned in his day, a cup that revealed itself and far beyond. Jamshid's goblet was the mirror of the world. The sun's son, he extended the boundaries of earth, refused to proclaim the law, but nourished the land. The earth was his goblet, clear of corruption, disease, and death, a heavenly dream. Bless you, Jamshid. May your divine majesty flow into my cup.
Hi, I'm Marie Hoy-Kenny, and I'm going to be reading my story, Chanel and Penelope. You pick me up in your Honda Civic, and I feel cooler than I've ever felt before, even though it's all bashed in and rusted up on the passenger side. When I get my license, I'm getting my girl, and we're driving until we can't drive anymore, is what you told everybody, and you're delivering on your promise. I blast Jay-Z's Hard Knock Life, and we sing so loudly, our voices crack like the beat-up asphalt road we're coasting down. You take off your Rolling Stones tee and throw it in the back seat, and I take off my halter top and toss it behind me without looking. When I peek back, I notice my shirt landed on top of yours, and that feels significant. We drive in our padded Victoria's Secret bras with all the windows down, and anytime a guy hollers at us, we flip him the bird. Just as I start thinking that your ribs stick out a bit further than my ribs and vow to lay off the Big Macs, you grip my hand at a red light and tell me I'm beautiful. I'm your favorite. And I decide Big Macs are just fine, that I'm just fine. When we get to the border, the man asks where we're headed, and you say Florida. Even though we both know we'll probably only make it as far as the Cheektowaga Olive Garden. You ask why I'm so quiet, and I don't tell you that it's not a joke to me. I'm actually wondering what it would be like if we kept driving. Started a new life where we could have cool new names like Chanel and Penelope. We'd miss no one. Drive further and further, flip from place to place, never stopping long enough to get to know anyone else. All we need is each other.
Hi, everybody. My name is Rayanne Haines, and I'm quite delighted to have been asked to share a reading from my very small poem that has been accepted into the FreeFall latest issue. A little bit about me. I am the current writer in residence for the Metro Edmonton Federation of Libraries. I also teach at MacEwan University and have 3 collections of poetry. I'm working on a new collection of nonfiction, essay, and poetic experimental form collection that looks at the in-between spaces that we inhabit. But for this evening, I am sharing this small poem that I wrote about a year and a half ago. I was in Scotland doing my master's degree and discovered a large painful lump on my breast while alone with no medical care kind of pre-set up. At the same time, my mother was and still is going through her struggle, her fight against ovarian cancer. And so much of my life for about 2.5 months, while I found care and was trying to figure out what was going on, was really embedded in I am going to die from cancer and leave my children alone. I know that's a morbid place to be, but that's where I was. And this poem came from that. I'm very thankful for places like FreeFall that are willing to take on work that looks at these kind of harder topics. And so I will share this poem now. Birds such as waxwings and robins dine on them. Disquiet spills my marigold skin open, satirizing the wound, a caricature of a carefree woman, cauterized. The lump overdoses words I won't voice, stuck in my throat and my breast. To shed like the arbutus, uproot, take the stump, trim and graft, to be the redwood rings. If only there are no trees here. Thank you. And I am excited to hear everybody else's poems.
During the first few years, Kieran used to worry her house might wander away. Shake itself awake one morning and walk towards the distant ocean, never to be seen again. Her house was more of a flight risk than most, crouched like a spider on 18 iron stilts above the bog water, tilted perceptibly to the left, surrounded by dead pickerel weed where others might keep a rose garden. Thrushes hid under the eaves, bringing back ribbons of gunk from faraway cesspits. Whenever storms came, the entire house would sway like it had eaten too much fried fish. Kieran always thought there was an aura of impatience about the structure, waiting for the floodwaters to rise high enough, the mud to suck hard enough, the rust to bury deep enough, until one day, well, Kieran supposed, it's not so different from people. You run or you are buried. The uneasy part is the waiting. Before she met Lou, back when she used to walk her circuit with only wrens and ovenbirds and golden plovers for company, she would whisper to the house, "Don't run. Don't you dare. I am watching you." Pre-dawn starlight would wink off the windows. Not yet, the house would promise. Not yet. Thanks to the razor-flat horizon, Kieran could see the silhouette of her house for several miles in all directions. She would watch, and the house would watch her, and in those early days, she always found something worth the trek. Ammonite, 75 million years old. Gastrolith, 30 years old. Seagull bones, fresh. Last November, a whale carcass had rolled itself into Kieran's path, a white balloon of exposed ribs and vertebrae, slick with mud and the last whispers of blubber. Black stuff trailed from an eye socket, like ink or tears, or a stolen scrap of night sky. "What are you doing here, so far from the sea?" Kieran asked. Perhaps an unnaturally strong tide had brought the whale inland inch by inch. Perhaps it had always lived underground, only now to wrestle free. Perhaps it had dropped from the sky. She knew better than to assume a reasonable explanation, not on the bog, where Roman coins surface like sidewalk weeds, alongside blown-out tires and rusted machetes and engagement rings, dog collars, human clavicles, condom packets, empty tins of baked beans, plastic spiders, and megalodon teeth the size of a child's forearm. The whale didn't answer. Bones seldom did. Kieran skimmed her hands, wind crinkled and popped over the whale's ribcage. Too big to carry home. She found herself wishing the house would walk, just this once, if it would come when she called, swallow up the carcass, and walk back to its patch by the dead pickerel reed. The next morning, the whale was gone. Strange googes sank into the earth where it had lain. But the longer Kieran looked, the less certain she was that anything had ever lain there at all.
Hi, my name is David Martin, and I'm going to share a poem with you that is in the new issue of FreeFall. The poem is called Petrified Willow Leaves. It's about some fossilized leaves that I saw in a museum. The language of the poem is probably most noticeable, and that was inspired by poet and philologist William Barnes's attempts to remove elements of French, Greek, and Latin from the English language. He felt English had given up useful words for less intelligible imported ones. His ideas never caught on, but I like to think of his creations as a lost layer in the stratigraphy of language, which can be brought to light like a fossilized specimen from the distant past. So this is Petrified Willow Leaves. O falsome thing forestoned, what brangle brought you here? Thorough shining leaves once groom, full-ended now, breaksome with fear. High deedy earth whips life grist, your kin stem 4 frets in checkless time. A faith law inholds you with frozen return vows to welcome heirs prime. Foreknotted breath terrored the man who trode we sow continents to be. Up-cleaming limbs unfriend the bowl, but wind-quickening still is matterly. Thank you.
My name is Dorothy Jane Kavanaugh. I'm reading from a midsection of Schlep, 1943, from an upcoming book of stories reflecting a period in Canadian history. As usual, I'm not starting my day in a good mood. I picked the excuse that I've moved my ma, Addie, here to the back end, the wrong side of the little river, even though I know deep down that's a lie. She said her little house at the fork where the Detroit River meets the Little River was too close to town, which meant too far from me. Next, I blame the weather. The past few weeks, folks talked an early spring, ground giving way with each step. Even when dreams of carrying wounded over my shoulder woke me, and I walked about in the middle of the night, I wore only a sweater. But this morning, April clear skies give way and invite in dark, heavy clouds. Before noon, flakes fall, but dissolve in my hand. Then a cold front advances from the north. Temperatures drop 20 degrees in an hour, and I know I shouldn't even think about setting out to meet Rachel. By dinner, the snowfall reminds me that winter still holds court. And at midnight, when I leave my house, the wind blows ice petals sideways, cutting into my face like I'd nicked myself shaving. I drive across the Little River Bridge through drifts, park at our designated spot on the road behind the convent, and I decide that no matter if Rachel shows, has brought a package, no matter double the money, I'm canceling. Her perfume enters the truck before she does, always and always the same scent, earthy, warm, and maybe a bit fruity. Reminds me of the girls in France. She places the tiny box next to me and slides inside. She's pretty with snowflakes already melted on her dark eyelashes. Our first conversation, I'd asked her what she did in the war. Just served. I knew that as code for anything secretive. You're brave to transport in this weather, I say. Brave was for the war, home and country, right? Her voice brittle, cracking. Oh, we could see a bit of jail time for moving children, but here, now, not death. I nod toward the snow blowing against my windshield. Probably should return this one, weather. My soft refusal. Hump, you've been raking in double the fee like you asked. There's a birth certificate and a release in the bottom of the box, signed by the mother. She adds louder than usual. This is a good package. The lawyers on stateside are toughening and insisting on signed discharges. Some babies are being nabbed from their mothers, told their baby has died. Could be forged, I fumble, for additional ammunition beyond the weather. Yes, that's possible, but mothers sign over. Just grateful for their child to have a good home. And legal papers or not, this child has waiting parents. She flicks on my radio. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn made the bestseller list. Do you know about Ailanthus altissima, the tree to heaven? She asked, either calming herself or me. Well, heaven better watch out for us because this storm isn't over. I switch the station for the weather, and she swipes her toque from the dashboard, jams it over her ears, winds her scarf around her neck, sighs, stops, inhales, slides on her gloves, then her breathing slows, and she reaches for the door handle. I'm heading back east now. This free spring blizzard is coming in behind me. If I get on highway too quickly, I might stay ahead of the worst. At the Ojibwe slip, money in my pocket, the infant package on the passenger side, I turn off the motor, light up my last Philip Morris and crunch the package over and over in my fist. For the past year, I've delivered 5 a week, and for the first time, I slip my hand inside the box and feel a heartbeat. The baby, warm, drugged, nestled in the box next to me, doesn't stir. What do you say, buddy? Need a mom and dad on the other side? I slap at my head, a feeling like ants crawling on my scalp, my familiar warning sign, no hump, not tonight. The wind whirls dervish patterns flat and hard, pitches snow up in the air, slams it back down, groans and weeps. I launched my skiff last week, a sunny Sunday. A few ice floes drifting, but sure I'd kissed winter goodbye and pleased that deliveries would be safer now by boat. I retrieve the infant box, slip it under the front seat plank where I can see it, brush away flakes from the top and fight my way into the waves. 3 a.m., my guiding light invisible, but I'm confident the beacon will appear, shepherd me through the squall. I know that Penobscot light, the way the wise men knew the Star of Bethlehem. Its steady hand had guided me through many snowstorms with crates of Canadian Club for the speakeasies. I start out, one oar under my half arm and the other under my right arm. The wind and waves toss up and sideways. The bow rises and slams down, and the infant box slides to my feet. Black icy water slides over the gunwale. I tuck my feet under the butter box, raising it. Steam devils are forming, and hail pounds and beats the boat and us. My eyes remember direction and squint. Searchlights finding enemy planes. Then open wide, seeking the Michigan Tower. Thank you.
The Brit. Intertwined together their starlight-tinted street, light-threaded scratches through concrete, tender trickle thumb to thigh, tongue amidst the tea within scooter another time, butterfly laughter with British accent, skateboard tumble batter, teeth turn iridescent, tousled strawberry ponytail rests scattered atop scarlet shirt tucked into trousers, soft twill-coated chest, throbbing heartbeat, both trust the touch definitely too extensively, yet at the bottom the ruthless simplicity trembles, that this romantic sight flirts with fiction, wasted potential. Two mates sit atop cratered cement, connected together, platonically talking until night trails out, nothing greater.
Above the Bottleneck by Alanna Marie Scott.
Amir calls from base camp the afternoon before he'll begin the final ascent. "How's the weather?" I ask. It's 4:15 in the morning, but I've been waiting for this call. Instead of sleep, he's interrupted cold alphagetti and home renovation reality television. My pet addictions lately. "Beautiful, very clear," he says. The hike out took him the better part of a week. I marked the days, waiting. Since then, he's been acclimatizing, pressing his body to higher and higher altitudes. "You're lucky. Comes to that usually, doesn't it?" "Yes, it does." Maxime thinks I'm not taking advantage. Amir sounds amused. I can imagine him out there in the sun, probably flipping Maxime off, grinning. "How are you doing?" He's asking about you, almost discreet. "I've been having strange dreams. When Amir was here, he would lift up my shirt, as if my belly button were some window to you, swirling and embryonic inside me. Mom's a pain in the ass. I'm sorry I can't run interference. It's not really your job anyway." The man on the TV begins explaining the nuanced differences between types of drywall mounts. "Are there many people?" "A few, but it's not Everest." He laughs. He can see Everest from where he's standing, I think, only 15 miles away. The Himalayas have become such cultural shorthand for grandness, it's hard to appreciate their magnitude without seeing them in person. There are 14 mountains in the world with peaks above 8,000 meters, and 4 of them are right there, huddled together, their roots joined. I will teach you their names and trace their coordinates on a map. It's important that you know this. "You should sleep," he says. "I will soon." We sit with each other's breathing for a few moments, but then I tell him he should go, and with my permission he does. "Makalu will be your father's 9th 8,000er. It would have been my 4th, but instead I'm in Philadelphia, while you expand within me, a mass of multiplying cells that will one day stand beside me with hands larger than my heart. When you ask me about the day you were born, I'll begin with this. When I found out I was pregnant, I traded a mountain for you." That was wonderful, everybody. Thank you for sharing your readings with us. And thank you to everyone who joined us tonight and supported us and the artists in this evening. We hope to see you again at the next launch, and maybe, if we're lucky, we'll get to see all your beautiful faces in person back in the bookstores. Have a wonderful evening. Take care.
This is called Song Speaker. If you speak to me in song, you know me, I'll sing along. If the lyrics are your words, please believe that you are heard. Like to imagine it's our code, or what may remain untold for lifetimes. Song speaker, sing yourself to me in slant or straight poetry. You speak so figuratively. Although I like this game, I want to finally know the man from which it came. Song speaker. Don't mean them that way, I hope you will never say. Until a song sings me goodbye, please don't dissipate. poetry. You speak so figuratively. Although I like this game, I want to finally know the man from which it came. Song speaker, you might mean these songs selectively, but I adore you everlastingly. You drive me to abstraction, distracting rarefaction. But if I could, I'd be here anyway. If I could, I made a mix of all their songs, so I could keep singing along. But not a single one sounds right. They're not the voice I heard last night, lighting up the lines, intoning what's between them. You should have seen them glowing in the air, even now that you're not sitting there. Oh, song speaker, sing yourself to me in slant or straight poetry. You speak so figuratively, although I like this game.